It is Thursday, March the 24th. Today marks officially a month that Russia has been invading Ukraine. And I've talked about this before, and I'm going to talk about it again. And I want to stop talking about this because I wonder if you're as tired as I am about hearing about the story in the news. This is definitely sad what's happening in Ukraine. And I'm not sympathizing with Russia. I'm not sympathizing with Ukraine. There's too much information that we don't know, right? So there's a big lack of information that we have with this. And it seems like the conservatives are taking Putin's side, the liberals, of course, are taking Ukraine's side. And I make sure that I'm saying Putin instead of Russia, because this is nothing to do with the citizens of Russia. They don't even want this war going on. So we know that. So for me, I'm upset with Putin and the Kremlin versus a whole civilization of people. That makes no sense. And then we hear stories about Ukraine and there's some atrocities going on there, and maybe that's why Putin is doing this. That's a different story. That's I would have to drill down and do a whole video just on that, and I plan to, because there's some things that I'm seeing and hearing that make me question the legitimacy of everything that's going on. I'm not trying to say that there's not an invasion going on. We absolutely know that that's happening. We see that's happening. So I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to say that none of this is going on and this is all fake or anything like that. But this morning I'm watching MSNBC, and Richard Engel, who's one of their war correspondents, who's got an amazing background. I mean, he's been covering wars for over 20 years. Back in 2003, he was one of the journalists that covered Baghdad and was like in the firing line. So I typically respect his coverage. He doesn't really add much of a slant or anything like that. He doesn't take sides. He just tells you what he's seeing. He's there. He's the eyes on the ground, and he's telling you what he's seeing every day. And he's been over in Ukraine covering this for MSNBC. And this morning, I'm sorry, let me back up. So we've been hearing all kinds of fantastical stories and coverage from all of the networks, from CNN to MSNBC to Fox News. Everybody has their own slant on how they're reporting this incursion over there. But like a few weeks ago, we started hearing about weapons of mass destruction again. Like, oh, are we gonna do this again? We're pulling this old thing out, and dusting it off. This is why we got into Iraq, was weapons of mass destruction that were never there, right? This has all been verified. None of that ever existed. It was just a ploy to get us involved in a war with Iraq versus Saudi Arabia. So, and you can look all this up. So this morning, Richard Engel is on MSNBC discussing that there are reports, and reports that Russia has been using white phosphorus bombs. As soon as those words came out of his mouth, my mind immediately went back to a few years ago. There was a TV series. I can't remember if it was on Showtime or HBO. It's on HBO now, on the HBO Max app, called The Newsroom. And this was a really great Aaron Sorkin TV series. I think it only lasted 2 or 3 seasons. But Aaron Sorkin is who brought us The West Wing. It was a really great in-depth coverage of, a drama series about what it was like, the day-to-day operations of the White House and the presidency. It was a really great series. If you've never seen it, or watch it, it's wonderful. And but that was Aaron Sorkin, who also did The Newsroom. Just a really great written show, wonderful cast, dialogue. It's a very smart show. And so it's the same thing, but it's giving you the day-to-day operations of a mainstream media channel. And in fact, Jane Fonda plays the president of the company. Funny, because her husband was Ted Turner. So she kind of plays the Ted Turner character of this network called ATN. But in the second season, one of their producers goes off to go cover a campaign, and they have to bring somebody in from outside. And this guy's trying to make a name for himself. And he uncovers this fantastical story about how the United States used white phosphorus on people in a thing called Operation Genoa. It's the whole plot or subplot of the second season, and it shows how it all plays out and how do they break the story, how do they report the story. They have to be responsible. They could be giving away government information, so it's really great. If you've never seen it, watch the Newsroom. It's a great TV series. It's very entertaining and educational, because it does kind of give you a great behind the scenes view of how does a news channel operate, and how do they make decisions on what to cover and what not to cover. So it's very well written. But again, so that was the whole plot of this story. And this is like 2006. This TV series was on, I think. I'd have to check on that. But it was the whole thing was that, like I said, that the military had used white phosphorus, and they'd found several military guys to kind of confirm this. It all comes out to find out that it was all a ruse. None of it ever happened. People were trying to make trying to further their careers. So a wonderful story like this was going to help promote and elevate these people. And so hearing this morning, I'm like, oh my God, is the mainstream media, is cable news going so far to, like, our ratings are down. Our ratings were great for the first couple of weeks, but now we have the Supreme Court, a candidacy thing going on right now with Judge Conjay Brown, where they're covering that. Nobody's watching the war anymore like they were every day, so our ratings are dropping. We've had some storms here in the United States the last few days, in Louisiana and Texas and in the South. There's a lot of things going on in the world. So nobody wants the 24/7 war channel. I talked about this before. We're kind of over it. We have our own issues going on here in the United States that we need to focus on. So what did one of their producers go like, hey, you remember that season of that TV show where they talked about white phosphorus and like how big of a deal that was? Like, can we report this? Because the way that Richard Engel is even covering this is not typical of him. This is not typical of, well, I don't want to say not typical of MSNBC, because they have been all over the place with certain stories that they just glom onto. But typically, in something like this, if you're going to accuse somebody of something like using white phosphorus, which is pretty dramatic, the whole thing in the Newsroom is they make sure that they triple check, quadruple check their sources, they dot all their I's and cross all their T's, and they end up airing this report, and the whole thing falls apart, and there's just all kinds of repercussions for everybody. So I'm wondering why is MSNBC, 7:00 this morning, reporting that Russia, has reportedly, now, is that how they cover themselves? Like, well, we didn't say definitely. We said it's reported that they're using white phosphorus. This is where you are losing our faith in you. This is why people don't watch the news anymore. This is why people are getting their news from Facebook and from their aunts and uncles, and QAnon. Because you do this fantastical stuff. Richard Engel goes, and normally I would pull up a video and show you, but it's a little graphic and I don't want to do that, where Richard Engel's in a hospital talking, where he's interviewing a Ukrainian woman who has like her arms and her hands are all torn up, where it looks like glass, maybe she was near a bomb that went off, an explosion, and you see glass, and whenever you see that in movies and stuff, where she's got like thousands of scrapes and cuts all over, where she might have been near a glass or something that splintered and tore her up pretty bad. But he's kind of alluding to, and again, they're using all these words to kind of cover themselves. Like, well, we didn't say 100%. We just reported, and she might have, and possibly, and this is very strange times we're in, where we want to hear 100%. Otherwise, don't come to us with a story yet. Don't come to us until you know and you have 100% certainty that this is what's happened. That's what journalism is supposed to be. Don't guess. We can guess. Tell us 100% that you know what's going on. So he's, this woman's in the bed, and she's got, like I said, all these cuts all over her. White phosphorus, from what I understand from when they talked about this in the show, and you can look up images again. I'm not going to pull this stuff up because it's pretty graphic. I'll add links But even when I did a Google search for MSNBC white phosphorus, nothing from them so far other than from their Twitter feed. So again, like, how much do you believe in this, that this is not plastered everywhere yet? So at that point, why are you even bringing it up? Is this just a push to further, to get United States to get more involved in this? We're already involved. We've sent, thousands of Stinger missiles, millions and millions of dollars over there. What do you want? We cannot get involved with Russia without starting World War III. And we know that that can't happen. That just, in no uncertain terms, can that ever happen. We'll never get into a direct engagement with Russia or China. So why? So just stop it. Like, it feels like that's what they want. And if that happens, there's a whole lot of saber rattling going on from Russia, where they, we're talking to one of their spokespeople from the Kremlin, who was the other day, and there's videos everywhere of this guy saying, yes, if needed, we will use like a small nuclear bomb. And again, this is what bullies do, right? So it's all their bark is bigger than their bite. They're more like a chihuahua, but when they look in the mirror, they see, a pit bull. So we know that that's what's going on. Just a whole lot of saber rattling. We call this, prick waving. So it's just very disingenuous. We know that they won't do that, because then that would wipe out their entire country if we got into a nuclear, war. So we know that this is not going to happen. They need to quit promoting this. They need to, quit trying to egg this stuff on. We need to resolve this as quickly as possible for the people of Ukraine and the countries everywhere. This is creating a huge humanitarian crisis. I saw another report on the news where Russian protesters are at the Mexican border trying to come into the United States seeking asylum. We don't need all of this. We have enough on our own plate right now here in the United States. This is too much for anybody. Every country's got their issues right now. The economy's down. I go back again. We have homelessness issue here. People don't have good health care. People are still unemployed. Even though all these companies say they're hiring, people are still unemployed. So there's just a whole lot going on here in Tennessee. Where I live in Nashville, we have a major pothole issue throughout here, and almost borderline crisis. It is literally taken up social media, where people are constantly complaining about damage to their car, to their vehicles from potholes. And the state government here acts like we don't know what you're talking about. Although it's all they're talking about on social media is high gas prices and potholes here in Nashville. So, like, we have enough on our plate. We sympathized with you a little bit. We understand your plight. This is terrible that you're going through this, but there's things going on all over the globe. And now I'm starting to see people are saying, well, hey, what about what's happening in Yemen? Yeah, what's happening everywhere? There's stuff happening everywhere. There's things happening here in the United States that we're not even talking about. So corruption, corporate corruption, media corruption, fraud, whether these politicians are making money from investments. So, there's all kinds of things going on everywhere. It just becomes too much. And no wonder people are, so depressed and have anxiety nowadays. It's just so overwhelming. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Just because when I saw this about white phosphorus, I'm like, oh my God, they're literally taking things from a TV series and using this as news. Are they hoping that this will register? Like, that they'll have a false memory of, oh, I remember hearing about this, and not remembering that, oh, that was from a TV show. Or are they hoping that, well, it wasn't that big of a TV show, maybe a lot of people won't remember it, so we'll cover it. We'll pretend it's ours, and we didn't think you'd remember watching that this series came out. So anyway, again, it's the Newsroom. It's season 2. It's called Operation Genoa, and it's just a wonderful show if you've never seen it. Aaron Sorkin, who I love, it's just brilliant. It's well written, and like I said, the dialogue's wonderful. So check it out. Let me know, what are your thoughts on this? Are you completely just tuned out? Or do you not even care anymore? Because I said that last week. I feel like we've just turned our backs on Ukraine. People have taken down the Ukrainian flag off their Facebook profile. I'm sure people are back to buying Stoli vodka now. So, or are you really entrenched in this? Are you really concerned about what's going on? Let me know what your thoughts are and leave a comment down below. And again, if you enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to you next time.